Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Autumn, 1987. A researcher from a nutritional anthropology program drove up a gravel lane past a line of black buggies to document what an Amish grandmother named Sarah Stoltzfus cooked for her family every single morning before sunrise. He expected eggs. He expected bacon. What he found simmering on her wood stove at 4 in the morning was a pot of pale golden broth, thick with shredded chicken, cubed root vegetables, and tiny hand-rolled dough drops, a soup she called rivel. He measured a single bowl. Then he measured it again, because he did not believe the first number. 42 grams of protein in one bowl, roughly 7 times what you would get from a single egg. And this woman, 73 years old at the time, had been eating it every morning of her life. What is sitting in your refrigerator right now is almost certainly the inferior option. The American breakfast, the egg, the processed cereal, the protein bar engineered in a food science laboratory was never the traditional morning meal of the longest living rural populations in this country. The Amish of Lancaster and Holmes County have quietly kept the real one alive. And the recipe, the exact method, the ratios Grandma Stoltzfus used, is what this investigation recovers. Here is what the evidence shows. The plain communities of Pennsylvania and Ohio have been studied, on and off, for nearly 60 years. Johns Hopkins researchers have tracked their cardiovascular profiles. The University of Maryland has mapped their metabolic health. Cornell Agricultural Extension has documented their dietary patterns across 4 generations. And buried in those files is a consistent, almost embarrassing pattern. Amish adults over the age of 60 maintain lean muscle mass at rates that dietitians in urban hospitals describe as statistically improbable. Their grip strength at 75 often matches the grip strength of Englishmen at 55. Their rate of sarcopenia, the age-related muscle wasting that puts millions of Americans into nursing homes, is a fraction of the national average. Researchers kept looking at the physical labor, the farming, the walking, and those matter. But physical labor alone cannot build protein that is not consumed. Something in the diet was carrying the load. And when the food journals were finally tabulated, one item appeared in nearly every Amish household in the study, every single morning, across 3 settlements in 2 states. Chicken rivel soup, or its near variants, brothy, protein-dense, made from the whole bird and its bones, served at breakfast. The mainstream nutrition establishment never noticed, because the mainstream nutrition establishment was busy telling Americans to eat cold cereal and skim milk. Let us turn over the first piece of evidence. In 1894, a Pennsylvania Dutch community cookbook was compiled in the area around Intercourse in Lancaster County as a fundraiser for a local schoolhouse. The book circulated in handwritten and mimeographed copies for decades before a printed edition reached historical archives. On one of its early pages sits a recipe simply titled Hinkle UPP, chicken soup. The instructions are not the instructions a modern cook would recognize. The bird is not merely boiled. It is simmered, whole, for between 6 and 8 hours, with the feet included. The feet are not optional. The feet are the point. Chicken feet are almost entirely collagen, cartilage, and connective tissue. When simmered long enough, they release a cascade of amino acids, glycine, proline, hydroxyproline, the exact building blocks the human body uses to repair joints, skin, gut lining, and muscle fascia. A broth made this way tests, in laboratory analysis, at protein concentrations between 4 and 6 times that of commercial store-bought chicken stock. When the shredded meat is returned to the pot, and the rivels, the tiny dough pearls made from flour, egg, and a pinch of salt, are dropped in to cook, the finished soup contains dense, complete protein in a form the aging body absorbs with almost no digestive effort. This is the second piece of evidence: bioavailability. Penn State Extension has published repeated guidance on the nutritional density of long simmered bone broths. The finding, consistent across studies of older adults, is that protein from slow-cooked broth is absorbed more efficiently than protein from whole muscle meat, particularly in people over 60 whose stomach acid production has declined. A 70-year-old eating a plate of scrambled eggs may absorb only a fraction of the protein on the plate. That same 70-year-old eating a bowl of Hinkle sup absorbs nearly all of it. Grandma Stoltzfus did not know the biochemistry. She knew her mother did it, and her mother's mother did it, and the women in her district had done it since the first Amish families settled the Pequea Valley in 1737. The third piece of evidence is harder to look at because it explains the loss. Before the Second World War, nearly every rural American household kept chickens. Nearly every rural American grandmother made soup from the whole bird, feet included, simmered overnight. This was not an Amish practice. This was an American practice. The Amish simply refused to stop. Between 1945 and 1965, the industrial food system remade the American kitchen. Frozen, boneless chicken breasts became the standard cut. Chicken feet were diverted to pet food and rendering plants. Bouillon cubes replaced stock pots. Campbell's condensed soup replaced the all-day simmer. The wood stove went cold. The stock pot went into the basement. And within one generation, the knowledge that had carried rural American women through 4 previous generations of aging simply vanished from English-speaking households. The Amish kept the stock pot on the stove. They kept the whole bird. They kept the feet. Not because they were preserving tradition for its own sake, but because their theology of household self-sufficiency treated waste as a minor sin. Every part of the animal went into the pot, because throwing the feet away was considered a small kind of blasphemy. The fourth piece of evidence closes the pattern. When researchers from a Maryland nutrition program visited 3 Amish households in Holmes County, Ohio, in the early 2000s, and recorded the exact preparation of what was served at morning meal, they documented a near-identical recipe across unrelated families. 1 whole pastured chicken, usually between 4 and 5 pounds. 2 chicken feet, sometimes 4. Cold well water to cover. A tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, added at the start, to pull the minerals from the bones. A handful of chopped onion, carrot, and celery from the root cellar. Simmered on the back of the wood stove from supper the night before until breakfast the next morning. The rivels were made fresh each morning. 1 cup of flour, 1 egg, a pinch of salt, rubbed between the palms until the mixture formed tiny irregular pearls, then dropped into the hot broth in the final 10 minutes before serving. Shredded chicken meat returned to the pot. A small spoon of butter, sometimes, if a cow had freshened recently. Served in thick earthenware bowls, often with a slice of sourdough bread on the side. 40 to 45 grams of absorbable, complete protein per bowl. Served to children, to working men, to nursing mothers, to grandmothers of 73, every morning, for 300 years. Here's how to make it. In a kitchen that does not have a wood stove or a root cellar, buy 1 whole chicken, pasture raised if possible, roughly 4 pounds. Most grocery stores carry them. Ask the butcher for 2 chicken feet, cleaned. If the store does not stock them, a Mexican or Asian grocery almost certainly will, usually for under $2 a pound. Rinse the feet. Place the whole bird and the feet into a large stock pot. Cover with cold filtered water by 2 inches. Add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Let the pot sit, unheated, for 30 minutes. This is not decoration. The vinegar begins to draw minerals from the bones before the heat does. Bring to a bare simmer, not a boil. A boil breaks the collagen strands and clouds the broth. Skim any gray foam that rises in the first hour. Add 1 quartered onion, 2 carrots in chunks, 2 ribs of celery, a bay leaf, and a teaspoon of sea salt. Cover partially. Reduce the heat to the lowest setting your stove allows. Walk away. Let it simmer for between 8 and 12 hours. Overnight is ideal. The broth should reduce slightly and turn a deep golden color. When it cools on the counter, it should gel like soft jello. That gel is the collagen. That gel is the medicine. Remove the bird, shred the meat, discard the feet and the spent vegetables, or compost them. Strain the broth through a fine mesh. Return the broth and the shredded meat to a clean pot and warm gently. Make the rivels. In a small bowl, combine 1 cup of all-purpose or einkorn flour, 1 beaten egg, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Using your fingertips, rub the mixture together until it forms small, rough crumbs, roughly the size of a grain of rice. Drop them by the handful into the simmering broth. Cook for 8 to 10 minutes until they float and firm up. Taste. Adjust salt. Ladle into bowls. 1 batch feeds a family for 3 mornings. The broth keeps in the refrigerator for a week or frozen for 3 months. A single bowl, eaten at breakfast instead of eggs or cereal, delivers more absorbable protein than most Americans get in an entire day. There is one last piece of evidence that this investigation has been holding back. When the Lancaster County cookbook from 1894 was examined page by page, a handwritten margin note appeared next to the Hinkle-Sup recipe. The note, in faded pencil, in Pennsylvania Dutch dialect, translated roughly to this, for the old ones and the sick ones: add a second foot and cook 1 hour longer. The body remembers. The body remembers. That phrase sat in a farmhouse drawer for 93 years before anyone outside the community read it. And what it names is the central premise of every piece of evidence in this case: that the aging human body, given the right raw material, given collagen and glycine and slow-simmered mineral-rich broth in the exact form it has recognized for 10,000 years of human cooking, repairs itself in ways that no protein shake, no powdered supplement, no factory-farmed egg white omelet can replicate. Grandma Stoltzfus did not take a single prescription medication in her life. She lived to 91. She buried 2 husbands and raised 11 children. The soup was on the stove every morning, including the morning she died. What was lost in the American kitchen was not flavor. It was not nostalgia. It was the actual biological mechanism by which rural women once kept their families alive into their 10th decade. The Amish kept it because they never agreed to give it up. You can recover it this weekend for the price of 1 chicken and 2 feet. Tell us in the comments, did your grandmother keep a stock pot on the back of the stove? What state was she from, and what did she put in it? Every name you share becomes part of this archive. This channel continues the investigation. Next, the fermented beverage one. Holmes County Settlement drinks daily that Johns Hopkins linked to a measurable drop in seasonal illness. Subscribe, and the next case file arrives at your door.